Most people have eaten frozen pizza this week, and most of them have no idea what was actually on it, because the cheese on some of America's best-selling frozen pizzas, not real cheese. It's vegetable oil, potato starch, and a whitening compound used in paint, pressed together and melted on top of your pizza, so it looks like mozzarella. Today, we're going through 10 of the most popular frozen pizza brands in America and showing you exactly what's inside each one. Some of these you've bought for years, some you've fed to your kids. By the end of this, you'll know which ones to put back on the shelf, and the 3 that are actually worth buying. Let's start with number 10. Number 10, Tony's Pizza. Tony's sells itself on size. 25% more pizza than competitors like Jack's. Right on the box. For a family on a budget, that sounds like a win. Here's what that headline is hiding. Tony's is made by Schwan's, now owned by South Korean conglomerate CJ Chiljang. The plain cheese mozzarella is real. That part's fine. But the crust contains L-cysteine hydrochloride, a dough conditioner sourced from duck feathers or made synthetically, and ammonium sulfate, the same compound used as agricultural fertilizer. Used here to speed up dough rising on an industrial line. Real pizza dough needs 4 ingredients. Tony's crust needs more than 20. The pepperoni is mechanically separated chicken carcass forced through a metal sieve at high pressure, extracted into a paste, then shaped into a topping. That paste contains BHA and BHT, flagged by the International Agency for Research on Cancer as possible human carcinogens. Sodium runs around 630 milligrams per listed serving, but that serving is a fraction of the pizza. Eat the whole thing, which most people do, and you're past half your daily sodium limit in one meal. More pizza built from fertilizer compounds and chicken paste isn't the deal it looks like on the box. Number 9, Jack's Pizza. Jack's is the affordable weekend night standby, and on the plain cheese version, the mozzarella is genuinely real. Worth saying, but Jack's is owned by Nestle, which also owns DJO, Tombstone, Stafers, and Hot Pockets. 5 brands that look like competitors are all under one corporate roof, sharing the same sourcing priorities and cost targets that matters for everything coming up on this list. Past the plain cheese, the quality drops fast. Meat varieties use mechanically separated chicken in the pepperoni, BHA and BHT as preservatives, and enriched wheat flour in the crust, meaning the grain's been stripped of its natural nutrients and partially rebuilt with synthetic versions your body absorbs less effectively. Sodium sits around 590 milligrams per stated serving, but the serving is only a portion of the pizza. 2 or 3 slices, and you're near half your daily limit before the meal's done. The frustrating part, real cheese, budget price, the bones of a decent option are there. Nestle just filled everything around it with the cheapest processing agents available. If this is their entry level, what does their premium pizza look like? That answer's coming. Number 8, Red Baron. Red Baron is the one that signals quality without quite committing to the word. Vintage branding, decades of TV presence, a price just above the budget shelf. On the standard varieties, the named cheeses mozzarella and cheddar are real. That holds. But Red Baron carries 2 specific ingredients that go beyond the standard preservative conversation, and both have documented concerns worth knowing. First, hydrogenated soybean oil. The American Heart Association has directly linked trans fat consumption to increased LDL cholesterol, decreased HDL cholesterol, and elevated cardiovascular disease risk. In 2015, the FDA formally determined that partially hydrogenated oils are not generally recognized as safe in human food, and began phasing them out in 2018. Red Baron's formulation still carries these oils through reformulation workarounds, using fully hydrogenated and blended oil versions. It's also worth noting that Red Baron is manufactured by Schwan's, the same company behind Tony's. The same cost-cutting philosophy runs through both brands. Second, carrageenan. It's derived from seaweed, which sounds harmless, but research published by the National Library of Medicine has linked carrageenan to gastrointestinal inflammation. Researchers at the University of Illinois found it triggered inflammatory responses in human intestinal cells. Gastroenterologists specifically advise patients with IBS or inflammatory bowel conditions to avoid it. In Red Baron, it's used as a texture stabilizer. Mechanically separated chicken and BHA and BHT are in the pepperoni. Sodium on the classic crust pepperoni version lands around 780 milligrams per serving, defined as 1/4 of the pizza. Eat half, a normal adult portion, and you're at over 1,500 milligrams of sodium. Essentially, a full day's worth and what most people consider a casual dinner. The brand spent decades building recognition on quality and heritage. The formula inside the box is quietly built on hydrogenated oils, an inflammatory thickener, and synthetic preservatives. Those two things tell very different stories. Before we get to number 7, if this investigation is helping you make better decisions in the frozen food aisle, a quick like helps other people find it too. Number 7. DiGiuro. DiGiuro is the #1 selling frozen pizza in America. Their entire brand is built on one line. It's not delivery, it's DiGiuro. The implication is restaurant quality results from your own oven. That's the standard they set. So, it's the one worth checking on the basic rising crust for cheese pizza. The cheese is real, accurate, but move to the stuffed crust or personal size varieties. Some of DiGiuro's most marketed formats and the formulation changes significantly. Those versions blend real part skin mozzarella with modified food starch and methyl cellulose. Methyl cellulose is a synthetic compound used in wallpaper paste and in pharmaceutical contexts as a bulk laxative. In DiGiuro's stuffed crust, it's there because it mimics the stretch and melt of real mozzarella at a lower cost with a longer freezer shelf life. The same products include fully hydrogenated vegetable oils from soybean, palm, and cottonseed, along with konjac gum, gel gum, and additional modified food starch. That's not a cheese system. That's an engineering system built to perform like cheese. Consumer Reports ran a blind evaluation with 7 trained tasters across more than 100 baked pies. DiGiuro's rising crust didn't crisp properly. Tasters described it as overly bready and doughy, with a white bread texture that goes gummy. Consumer Reports also flagged DiGiuro for the highest sodium content per serving of any brand tested. 840 milligrams for just 1/3 of the pizza. Eat half and you've consumed over 1,200 milligrams in one sitting. And consumers have documented for years that DiGiuro pizzas are getting noticeably smaller. Same box design, less pizza inside. Higher price tag with methyl cellulose in the variety they're charging a premium for, not delivery. And in the stuffed crust line, not quite cheese either. Avoiding the bad products is only half the job. The real question is, what should you buy instead? We spent months going through hundreds of labels and built one guide with our best picks, better swaps, and the products we personally choose. Links below. Number 6. Great Value Frozen Pizza. Great Value is Walmart's house brand, the lowest price in the frozen pizza section. Budget ingredients, budget price, nothing surprising there. But in 2026, Great Value moved past ingredient quality concerns into something more serious. On April 30th, 2026, the USDA's Food Safety and Inspection Service issued a public health alert covering multiple frozen pizza products, including Great Value Thin Crust Chicken Bacon Ranch Pizza, sold in 17.5 ounces boxes at Walmart stores nationwide. The alert was triggered after the FDA found that several frozen pizza manufacturers had received non-fat dry milk powder from California Dares Inc. that was contaminated with salmonella. The USDA's guidance: discard or return the affected products immediately. Great Value wasn't alone. Mama Koshi's at Aldi and Culinary Circle Pizzas were named in the same alert, all connected to the same contaminated dairy supplier. That's the risk of consolidating production through a small number of massive ingredient sources. One contamination event at one facility doesn't stay in one place. It moves across multiple brands, multiple retailers, and potentially millions of units already sitting in home freezers with nothing on the packaging to warn anyone. Great Value products are manufactured by contracted facilities under largely undisclosed quality control standards. There's no way for a consumer to know who made the pizza or where. Walmart puts their label on the box. The production origin doesn't follow. Saving $2 on a pizza is a reasonable goal. The 2026 Salmonella alert is not a trade-off most people would have agreed to up front. Number 5. Tombstone Pizza. This is where the list shifts. Not just questionable ingredients. Something more deliberate about the gap between what the label says and what's actually in the box. The front of many Tombstone varieties says real cheese. On the plain options, that's accurate. But on the 5 cheese varieties and several meat-topped options, Tombstone blends real mozzarella with imitation mozzarella on the same pizza. The front of the box still says real cheese. The imitation portion is made from water, palm oil, casein, modified food starch, sodium citrate, skim milk, salt, lactic acid, and sodium phosphate. No cheese process. Vegetable oil and starch engineered to melt and brown the way mozzarella does. And here's the part that makes this a labeling issue, not just an ingredient issue. Under FDA rules, specifically 21 CFR Part 133, real mozzarella must meet defined moisture and fat content standards. The moment a product is labeled imitation, those standards disappear entirely. There's no minimum cheese content required for imitation cheese. A manufacturer can use any combination of oils, starches, and isolated milk proteins, and call it imitation mozzarella, as long as those words appear somewhere in the ingredient panel. They do appear buried in dense text that most shoppers never reach, because real cheese is what registered on the front of the box. Someone who specifically chose Tombstone because of the word real on the front paid for pizza and got half pizza and half vegetable oil compound. Fully legal, not disclosed anywhere a normal shopper would catch it. Tombstone is also Nestlé, the third Nestlé brand on this list. Textured soy protein concentrate and dehydrated potato fill out the beef toppings. BHA and BHT are in the preservatives. Mechanically separated chicken is the base of the pepperoni. Sodium runs around 630 milligrams per quarter pizza, putting a 2-slice serving well past 1,200 milligrams. The brand started in 1962 as a real bar pizza with real ingredients. What real cheese means on the box today is not what that phrase meant when this brand began. Number 4. Hot Pockets Pizza. Hot Pockets markets its pepperoni and 4 cheese varieties as pizza. They sit in the frozen pizza section. Millions of Americans eat them as exactly that every week. So, they belong here. And what's inside them belongs in this conversation. The ingredient list is among the longest on any grocery store product. Enriched flour, palm oil, modified food starch, sodium phosphates, sodium nitrite, emulsifiers, stabilizers built to keep the filling stable through months of freezing and microwave reheating. The cheese component is pasteurized processed cheese sauce, which under FDA definitions is a categorically different product from cheese. It must contain real cheese as a base, and it does. But it's then combined with emulsifiers and sodium phosphate in a way that fundamentally changes its composition and nutritional profile. What comes out of a Hot Pocket is a cheese-derived sauce engineered for shelf stability, not cheese. But the ingredient list isn't the biggest issue here. In January 2021, Nestlé recalled approximately 762,615 pounds of Hot Pockets pepperoni pizza after consumers reported potential glass and hard plastic contamination. The USDA's FCIS confirmed the recall after at least one consumer reported an injury from ingesting the product. In the same year, Nestlé separately recalled Hot Pockets 4 cheese pizza snack bites for containing undeclared soy allergens, a potentially life-threatening situation for anyone with a soy allergy who had read the label and believed it was accurate. 2 separate recalls in one calendar year, one for physical contamination, one for a mislabeled allergen. Hot Pockets is the 4th Nestlé brand on this list. Processed cheese substitute, mechanically separated meats, synthetic preservatives, and now documented recalls for contamination and allergen mislabeling across the same parent company. When the packaging says pizza and the product has previously contained glass, this is past the point where the label conversation is the main issue. Number 3. Celeste Pizza for $1. Celeste is the dollar pizza. Personal size, quick, easy, and for that $1, the gap between what the front of the box shows and what the ingredient panel says is one of the widest on this entire list. Flip a Celeste Original 4-cheese pizza over and find 2 words in the ingredient panel. Imitation mozzarella, not a blend, not reduced fat mozzarella. Imitation. The image of golden melted cheese on the front is a photograph of something this pizza does not contain. Here's what Celeste's imitation mozzarella actually is. Water, palm oil, modified potato starch, quinine, modified cornstarch, triaryl phosphate, salt, sodium citrate, natural flavor, casein, lactic acid, potassium sorbate, and artificial color. No mozzarella, no dairy stretching, no cheesem. A vegetable oil and starch base processed and colored to approximate the look of melted cheese. Palm oil, the foundation of that topping, is over 50% saturated fat. The World Health Organization has linked high palm oil consumption to elevated cardiovascular disease mortality. So instead of the dairy protein and calcium you'd expect from a cheese topping, every bite delivers saturated fat from a vegetable oil base. The Environmental Working Group classified Celeste as an unhealthy ultra-processed food with high processing concerns. A 2024 umbrella review published in the BMJ, drawing on dozens of studies covering millions of participants, found consistent associations between high ultra-processed food consumption and 32 adverse health outcomes, including cardiovascular disease, metabolic syndrome, and certain cancers. And the sodium, one complete Celeste pizza, 5.220, the whole thing, contains 810 milligrams, more than a third of the American Heart Association's ideal daily limit in what most people eat as a light lunch or a snack. Celeste is owned by Kagra Brands. The dollar price isn't a reflection of what they can afford to put in the box. It's a reflection of what they chose to put in the box and what they put on the front of it. So, you wouldn't check the back. Number 2. Stairs French Bread Pizza. Stuffers has been in American freezers since the 1970s. French bread pizza carries a specific kind of comfort. Easy evenings, familiar warmth, no effort required. That's a powerful association, and it's one the brand has leaned on for a long time. The ingredient list doesn't match the feeling at all. The Stairs Deluxe French Bread Pizza contains high fructose corn syrup in the bread itself, a sweetener connected in decades of nutritional research to obesity, insulin resistance, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and metabolic syndrome. It also contains partially hydrogenated soybean oil and partially hydrogenated cottonseed oil, direct sources of artificial trans fats. The FDA's 2015 determination that partially hydrogenated oils are not generally recognized as safe cited a direct link to coronary heart disease. The phase-out began in 2018. Stafer's formulation still carries these ingredients through regulatory timing exemptions. But there's one ingredient in Stairs that separates it from most of the brands we've covered. TBHQ, terbutyl hydroquinone. A peer-reviewed study published in the International Journal of Environmental Research and Public Health found that TBHQ showed activity affecting immune response markers in laboratory testing. A separate study presented at the 2019 Experimental Biology Conference by Michigan State University researchers, Professor Cheryl Rockwell and Robert Freeborn, found that dietary TBHQ slowed the initial activation of T cells and reduced the immune system's ability to fight off influenza. For older adults whose immune response is already declining naturally, regularly consuming a preservative with these documented effects is something the packaging doesn't mention anywhere. On top of TBHQ, BHA and BHT in the pepperoni, mechanically separated chicken throughout, margarine listed as a standalone ingredient, and sodium hitting 940 milligrams per pizza, nearly half your daily ceiling in a single comfort food dinner. And Stafer's is the 5th Nestle brand on this list. One company, 5 entries, synthetic preservatives, mechanically separated meats, artificial trans fat sources, high fructose corn syrup in the bread, and now a preservative connected in peer-reviewed research to immune function. That's not 5 separate product decisions. That's one company's consistent operating standard across an enormous portfolio. Stafer's has sold comfort for 50 years. What's in the deluxe French bread pizza is the opposite of comforting. Number 1. Totino's Party Pizza. Everything on this list, every ingredient shortcut, every labeling gap, every synthetic compound we've covered, comes together in one product. Sold for $2. Purchased roughly 300 million times a year, frequently by parents buying it for their kids. Start with the cheese. The ingredient label does not list mozzarella. It does not say cheese blend. It says imitation mozzarella cheese. Every bit of cheese topping on a Totino's Party Pizza is imitation. Here's what it actually contains. Water, vegetable oil from palm, soybean, and canola sources, potato starch, modified food starch, rhaeticin, gelatin, modified whey, potassium sorbate, sodium aluminum phosphate, sodium citrate, sodium phosphate, and titanium dioxide, listed as an artificial color. Titanium dioxide is used in white paint, in sunscreen, in plastic manufacturing. It's in Totino's imitation cheese because without it, the vegetable oil and starch base would be a grayish translucent paste. Nobody would put it on a pizza. The titanium dioxide makes it white. The heat makes it melt. It looks like mozzarella because it was engineered to look like mozzarella. In 2022, the European Union prohibited titanium dioxide as a food ingredient after the European Food Safety Authority concluded it could no longer be considered safe for human consumption, citing genotoxicity concerns, meaning potential DNA damage at the cellular level. Banned across the entire European Union, still in Totino's Party Pizza on American shelves today. The toppings carry TBHQ, the same preservative Michigan State researchers connected to slowed T-cell activation and reduced ability to fight viral infection. They carry BHA and BHT, classified as possible human carcinogens by the International Agency for Research on Cancer. The meat toppings use mechanically separated chicken alongside textured vegetable protein from defatted soy flour and caramel color. These are not traditional meat toppings. They are chicken paste and soy protein pressed into circles and dyed to look like pepperoni. Then there's the serving size. Totino's lists nutrition information per half pizza. 340 calories up to 740 milligrams of sodium. The complete pizza weighs under 11.0. Most people eat the entire thing. Real sodium intake per pizza, approximately 1,480 milligrams. Over 60% of the daily recommended maximum from a single $2 product. Totino is owned by General Mills, a company that posted over $20 billion in revenue last year. The resources to use real cheese exist. The resources to use real meat toppings exist. The resources to remove a food compound banned in Europe from their ingredient list exist. The decision was made not to. Instead, imitation cheese whitened with a compound the EU prohibited in food. Preservatives linked in research to immune disruption. Meat toppings built from chicken paste and soy protein. A nutrition label structured around half the pizza. So, the numbers look half as serious as they are. All of it at $2. Aimed primarily at the households with the least ability to absorb the consequences. 300 million units a year. That is why Totino's is number one. Now that you know what to avoid, here are the options that actually held up. 3 brands, real cheese across the board. Ingredient lists that read like food. When you flip these boxes over, what you find matches what the front promises. Best option number 3, Newman's Own Thin and Crispy. Newman's Own is the one you can find at a regular grocery store at a price that works without a separate budget line, and it's actually made from real ingredients. The cheese is 100% whole milk mozzarella, from cows not treated with ARB's growth hormones. The full declaration, pasteurized milk, cheese cultures, salt, and enzymes. That's it. The crust is wheat flour, water, yeast, olive oil, and salt. 5 ingredients, all recognizable. The pepperoni variety uses uncured pepperoni with no added nitrates or nitrites, which is a real distinction from the BHA and BHT-laden, mechanically separated chicken paste running through most of the brands above. No artificial flavors, no artificial colors, no artificial preservatives. One honest note, sodium can run higher on certain varieties. The Supreme version clocks in around 970 milligrams per serving. If sodium is a concern in your household, check the specific variety before buying. It's worth the extra 10 seconds. Beyond the food, the Newman's Own Foundation donates 100% of the brand's profits to charitable causes. Since 1982, that has meant more than $600 million directed to thousands of organizations. You're buying real pizza, and the purchase goes somewhere useful beyond your freezer. At mainstream availability and a mainstream price, Newman's Own represents the baseline the rest of the frozen pizza industry should be hitting, and largely isn't. Best option number 2, Amy's Organic Cheese Pizza. Amy's earned this spot through the same kind of rigorous evaluation used to assess the worst brands on this list. Consumer Reports 7 trained tasters. More than 100 baked pies evaluated blind across multiple sessions. Amy's ranked consistently near the top. Consumer Reports specifically noted it finished lowest in saturated fat and among the lowest in sodium of all brands tested. The ingredient list explains that result completely. Amy's Organic Cheese Pizza. Organic unbleached wheat flour. Filtered water. Part skim mozzarella from pasteurized parts skim milk with culture, salt, and enzymes. Organic tomato puree. Organic extra virgin olive oil. Organic honey. Sea salt. Organic red onions. expeller-pressed safflower or sunflower oil, yeast, spices, organic garlic, black pepper. Read that list against totinos, against titanium dioxide, against methyl cellulose and duro stuffed crust, against TBHQ and stuffers, against mechanically separated chicken paste in 5 different brands. Every ingredient in Amy's is something you could pick up individually at a grocery store and use in your own kitchen. No modified food starch, no methyl cellulose, no mechanically separated anything, no TBHQ, no BHA, no BHT, no titanium dioxide, no imitation cheese, no hydrogenated oils of any kind. Amy's is certified organic, no synthetic pesticides, no GMOs, no artificial processing aids at any stage of production. Multiple registered dietitians consulted by major health publications have consistently named Amy's as one of the cleanest frozen pizza options available. It costs more than a Totino's. It should. Real organic mozzarella costs more than vegetable oil and potato starch colored with a paint compound. That price difference is the actual cost of making food from real ingredients. Those are 2 fundamentally different products, and one of them genuinely costs more to produce. Best option number 1. Capello's grain-free pizza. Capello's doesn't just avoid the problems on this list. It dismantles the argument the frozen pizza industry has used to justify those problems for decades. That argument, never stated directly, but embedded in every imitation cheese label and every synthetic preservative, is that the additives are necessary. That a commercially viable frozen pizza requires modified starches for texture, synthetic preservatives for shelf life, imitation cheese for cost control, and hydrogenated oils for melt behavior. These things, the reasoning goes, are simply what the frozen pizza format demands. Capello's proves that was never true. The crust, almond flour, cassava flour, arrowroot flour, cage-free eggs, tapioca starch, no wheat, no corn, no soy, no rice, no modified starches. The cheese, whole milk, mozzarella, and white cheddar declared as pasteurized milk, cheese cultures, salt, and enzymes. Real cheese, made the way it's been made for centuries. Nothing added, nothing modified, nothing imitated. The sauce, organic tomato puree, olive oil, garlic, salt, basil. Capello's explicitly states their products contain no modified starches, no wheat, no corn, no rice, no legumes, and no soy. The product is certified gluten-free and meets paleo dietary standards, which by definition exclude processed and refined ingredients. It ships nationally. It survives frozen distribution. It reheats cleanly. It works as a commercial frozen pizza in every practical way. And it does all of that without a single ingredient that appeared on any brand in the avoid list. The TBHQ from Stirrs, the titanium dioxide from Totino's, the methyl cellulose from DJO, the imitation cheese from Celeste, the hydrogenated oils from Red Baron. None of it is in Capello's because none of it was ever actually required. It was just cheaper. The ingredient label on a Capello's box reads like a recipe. In a category that produced paint compounds as food coloring, wallpaper paste derivatives as cheese stretchers, and chicken paste pressed into circles and sold as pepperoni. A pizza made from real food is genuinely the most radical thing in that freezer section. Here's where this lands. The next time you're standing in front of the frozen pizza section, one action changes everything you buy from that point forward. Flip the box. Find the ingredient list. If you see imitation mozzarella anywhere on that label, put it back. If you see titanium dioxide, put it back. If TBHQ or modified food starch appears in the cheese ingredients rather than the crust, put it back. If the crust ingredient list runs past 10 items, start asking what those extra items are doing there. The brands that use real ingredients don't need fine print to hide behind. Their labels read like food, because what's inside them is food. 10 brands that chose a different path, 3 that didn't. Now you know exactly which is which and what to look for the next time you're standing in that aisle.